And now for our third and final leadership question. Doug Ford, it is your turn. Who are you going to put on the hot seat?
Well, I'm going to ask my friend Kathleen the question. Kathleen, you got a nice smile on your face there. Kathleen.
So do you.
When does the clock start?
I'll start it right now, and that's probably the friendliest moment we will have. It's about time. No, the clock will start when you finish your question, and then Kathleen Wynne can answer. Continue.
Okay. Kathleen, you have not held, actually, you've stuck up for the $6 million man. You've raised taxes. We've lost 300,000 jobs. You say you care for the people, but the only people you care for is your liberal friends and liberal insiders. I truly believe you got into politics for the right reason. My question is very simply, when did you lose your way?
Well, we've created 800,000 net new jobs in this province. The economy is outstripping the growth of other provinces, the United States. Our unemployment rate is at a 20-year low. This province is doing very, very well. And what I believe is that government exists to do the things that people can't do themselves. Government exists to invest in the supports that people need. People want to be independent. People want to be able to look after themselves. But government needs to step up when there is a need, and that may be mental health supports, it may be child care, it may be supports for seniors, more home care. That's what government exists to do, Doug. So the investments we've made and the investments we will continue to make are about supporting people in their lives.
And that's time. 3 minutes opening debate begins now.
And I don't understand how cutting actually helps people.
You say investing by putting everyone in here in debt, all their grandchildren in debt, their children in debt, their great-grandchildren in debt.
But you have the same plan.
We're the most
you have
indebted.
the same plan with the hydro plan, Mr. Ford.
Actually,
you are in favor of the $40 billion borrowing plan for hydro.
We're going to make
and that's
the changes
exactly
at
what's
hydro.
going to
The first thing
happen.
we're going to do at hydro,
That's not what you said.
we're going to get rid of the $6 million man and all his cronies
and
on the board
that
had a backroom deal
and Mr. Ford,
to give
you're going to put your own cronies in place
Well, I'll tell you one thing. We're going to put people in there.
We're going to bring Hydro One back into the public sphere.
My friends, in the business world, we do comparators. We did comparators across the country. Every single CEO at any hydro company, the max is making $550,000. Kathleen Wynne, your man is making $6 million. Then he made the backroom deal, and you say you didn't know about it. So that shows me you're a poor manager if you didn't know that he doubled his compensation to $10 million, and then he paid all his cronies $14 million of bonuses when people come up to me in tears about the highest hydro rates. They can't afford to put food on their table.
So, Doug, we built this electricity system up in this province. You know, we invested billions of dollars because we inherited a system that your government and your government had not invested in. There was a real problem with brownouts and liberal governments too. Brownouts, blackouts, we rebuilt the system. That cost a lot of money. We've now spread the cost over a longer period of time and gave people a 25% reduction.
After you gave them a 300% increase,
because
Kathleen,
we built the
you
system.
ignored people for years and years and years.
We had a brownout and blackout in Pickering last week.
Oh, my goodness.
Right in Pickering, we had a brownout and blackout.
We built the system up because it had been degraded. And you know what? That's not even a partisan comment. The fact is, Liberal, NDP, and Conservative governments had not made the investments that needed to be made. We made those investments. There's a cost associated with it, and we've spread those costs over a longer period of time. You know, Doug, you know, on the Hydro One issue, that the way the governance was set up, the way we set it up to make sure that there was control, means that we are not going to support.
There's no control.
We're not going to support the compensation
You didn't even know the $6 million man made himself a backroom deal for $10 million.
We knew it at the
electricity system under both Mr. Ford and Ms. Wynne will
I'm going to let Ms. Horvath add her 2 cents in.
The electricity system under Mr. Ford and Ms. Wynne will stay in private hands, and it will operate in the interests of private shareholders. It does not have to be this way in our province. We can own more of and pay less for our hydro with change for the better come the election in a couple weeks' time.
Andrea,
we are the only party that's prepared to make a real change on behalf of the people of our province and the next generation, because that's what worries people as well. What have we done for the next generation in selling off our electricity system?
In building infrastructure.
The volatile and increasingly unaffordable Toronto real estate market has many people feeling like they'll never be able to afford a property. Here's the story of one man who thought he beat the odds.
I'm just really feeling very helpless and kind of at a loss right now.
It was slated to be a massive development, 3 condo towers here near Highway 7 in Jane, just a stone's throw from the brand new TTC station up here in Vaughan. Hundreds of buyers who bought back in 2016 and sunk thousands of dollars in deposits into the development received a letter saying that it had been turfed.
Put about $60K down, bought a 1-bedroom plus den with a parking spot as well on the 9th floor. And the total cost was something around $330,000 for the unit. And now those same units are somewhere around $400,000 plus.
And Karen joins us tonight. Thank you for joining us. Your question for the leaders.
Yep. So my question is, currently there's a discrepancy in the risk and rights of buyers and developers. Buyers are locked into agreements that developers are allowed to break. What actionable steps will you take to level the playing field between buyers and sellers?
Ms. Horvath, you're on the clock.
Thanks very much, Karim, for the question. And it must have been shocking for you to find the situation that you found yourself in. And young people are seeing that more and more. I mean, young people can't even imagine buying into the neighborhood that they were raised in if they were raised in Toronto. In fact, that's starting to happen across the GTHA. People are not able to afford to buy. They're not able to afford to rent. They can't afford their child care. They can't get their prescriptions filled. They can't go to the dentist. In 2018, we should be able to provide a province where people can build a good life here. And so our plans include making sure that we level the playing field when it comes to consumers and developers. These two parties have a lot of friends who are developers. We've seen them both in action. New Democrats are actually more interested in making life better for everyday families, particularly young families.
Thank you very much. Ms. Wynne, you're up.
I think this is it Doug?
It's you.
It's me.
Ms. Wynne, go ahead.
It's Ms. Wynne. I'm sorry, it's Ms. Wynne.
Yeah, this is a real challenge that, as Andrea said, young people particularly are facing across not just the GTA, but even beyond. And having an affordable place to live is obviously an extremely important part of getting ahead in life, whether you want to rent or buy. And so we put in place our fair housing plan that actually tackled some of the biggest challenges that people are facing, cooling the market down, putting in place a foreign speculation tax, expanding rent control to all buildings, not just buildings built in 1991. But the consumer protection aspect of this is extremely important, and so we are working to make sure that those contracts, that there's fairness, but to be able to afford a home, we know that that's critical.
Ford, now you're up.
Well, I hear your pain. I hear it right across the GTA in Toronto. It's unaffordable. It's unaffordable. The houses are what, over $1 million? Over $1 million? I know. My daughter went to Milton. The townhomes were $750,000 to $900,000. That is absolutely ridiculous. We have to create more of a supply. We have to make sure that we cut all the regulations and time frame that it costs the developer to. It goes on for 3 years before they can even build. So guess who's paying for that extra cost? The consumer is. I'm going to protect the buyer. I'm going to make sure that we can build affordable homes for not only just young people, every person, because not everyone wants to live in a 60-story condo.
And that's
you want to protect the developer. That's time, the 3 minutes. Open floor now.
You said
one at a time, please.
For affordable housing was to open up the greenbelt. The fact is, Doug,
the fact is, coming from you,
the fact is that there is enough land. There's enough land to build 2 cities the size of Mississauga available to developers.
You know why there's
you
enough
don't need
land,
to open
Kathleen?
the greenbelt, Doug.
Do you know why? because you changed the Greenbelt. I find it pretty rich that you sit there and say, not about the Green. Let me make it very clear, my friends, I'm not touching the Greenbelt.
Yeah.
But it's pretty.
Because you got caught.
It's really,
you got caught.
It's
Who else were you talking with in the back
It's
room?
hypocrisy at its best when you talk about the Greenbelt. Did you not change the Greenbelt 17 times for your developer buddies?
Doug,
did one of your ministers didn't you go with a little green thing going around?
So here's what we did.
To feather his nest?
There were over 200 applications to change the Greenbelt. There were some boundary changes that we made. What we didn't do, Doug, was open up big chunks of the Greenbelt for developers, which is exactly what you said you were going to do.
My friends, go on Ford Nation Live. You'll see the map. You'll see it looks like a jigsaw puzzle.
Okay,
it's all, and then you connect the property to Kathleen Wynne's donors.
Let's not forget about the question about affordable housing.
All the arrangements
this has become about your developer friends or his developer friends.
You know that's not true. You absolutely know that's not true.
In fact,
this has become about your developer friends or Ms. Wynn's developer friends. I think the question was about affordable housing for young people across the GTHA. Let's remember what we're talking about. We're talking about families being able to make a go of it. The Board of Trade said 42% of young people are leaving the GTA, leaving Toronto particularly, because they can't afford to live here. How is this city going to come into its own as the fantastic metropolis that we know it can be if people can't afford to live here? So affordable housing needs to be built. Social housing needs to be built. Supportive housing needs to be built. We need to build the missing middle along our transit lines where we have mid-rise types of units so that families can live there, they can buy into the market. We're also going to put a speculation tax on people who don't earn income here in this province. Every single year, they're going to pay taxes on the property that they hold for flipping because we think that that's driving prices up as well. So there's a lot we can do to make life more affordable for people. That's a part of what
much of it is already being done. The market has been cooled. Much of it's already being done. The market has been cooled. The Fair Housing Plan did that. We've put in place inclusionary zoning. We listened to the advocates. We've put in place inclusionary zoning, which will actually allow municipalities to require that developers build affordable housing as a percentage of their developments. That's the way that we can incent more behaviors, more developers to build the kind of housing. And we've got a federal government that now has a national housing strategy, and we're matching them dollar for dollar to build housing in Ontario, particularly in the GTA.
And that is time. And that is also the end of this portion of our debate. Time flies, doesn't it?
It certainly does. When you're having fun.
We are now going to go to closing statements. You each have 60 seconds to sum up your thoughts. Kathleen Wynne, you are first.
So I want to thank City. Thank you very much, Cynthia. Thank you to everyone who was here and everyone who watched. This is going to be a very important election debate over the next 28 or 29 days. And there are some pretty stark choices. As you heard tonight, there are very different perspectives. We've got a perspective on my right here that is about cutting and finding what he's calling efficiencies, but will amount to cuts that will hurt people, that will hurt services. We've got some magical thinking on my left here about how things can just magically happen without actually having the policy that is going to make it work. So I would just say to the people of the province, please ask your candidates. Look at what we have done, look at what we are building, and we are going to continue to build in this province. It is about care. It is about making sure that the care that people need is actually in place, or it's about cuts. It's about cutting services that people need. That's what this election is about.
Thank you, Ms. Wynne. Andrea Horvath, you have 60 seconds.
Thanks very much, and I'm glad folks had a chance to tune in to see exactly what's in store in the campaign. While Mr. Ford and Ms. Wynne fought about who's going to make the worst Premier of Ontario, I think this election's our opportunity to do something completely different. We don't have to choose between bad and worse. We can actually have change for the better in our province. Just imagine a province where everyone can afford the prescription drugs that they're prescribed by their doctor. Imagine a province where people can get their dental work done, where we own more of and pay less for our hydro system, where young families can not only afford a home, but they can afford the child care that they need, where we have a seniors care system that offers our seniors dignity. That, for me, is not just a dream, that's a plan. And you can help make that happen. Together, we can change this province for the better on June 7th. I hope you're with me. Thank you.
And Mr. Ford, you have 60 seconds.
Well, after 15 years of mismanagement, scandals, and waste of your hard-earned tax dollars, the Liberal government is desperate to hold on to power to continue lining the pockets of their friends and their Liberal insiders. I'm going to make sure we run a government that respects the taxpayers. You know me, I'm for the little guy. My priorities have been very clear. I'm going to make sure that we reduce the wait lines at hospitals. I'm going to make sure that we put money back into your pocket, clean up the hydro mess, and make sure we reduce taxes. We will create a government for the people. We will bring accountability, transparency, and integrity back to the great taxpayers of Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you very much, each of you, for joining us. That is the end of this portion of the debate. Doug Ford, Kathleen Wynne, Andrea Horwath, all the very best in this election campaign. That wraps this portion up, but don't go away. We have lots more still ahead. We're going to be hearing from the leaders themselves. And don't forget to make your voice count on the 7th. Right now, though, I'm sending it up to Francis D'Souza.